back, and it is great to hear those words. We had week 0 this week, and I am here to give you my complete 2025-2026 college football predictions. So, I'm going to be giving my Big 12, ACC, SEC, Big 10, overrated, underrated teams, my conference championship games, my winners, and then my Heisman predictions, including the 12-team playoffs. So, stay tuned for all that. Going to be a long, fun episode, especially if you love college football. But before we get started, make sure to follow the podcast on any platform, any streaming service, literally anywhere. Get your podcast at Burgers and Brats, and stay up to date with latest news on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Burgers and Brats. And hopefully you're watching live on millions.co at Burgers and Brats. So let's start in the Big 12. This is the new Pac-12 After Dark, a fun conference of who the heck knows what's going to happen this year. No one knew what was going to happen last year. ASU making it to the college football playoff, overtime loss versus Texas to make it to the Final Four, and they were picked dead last in the conference. So anything can happen here, especially with Kenny Dillingham as head coach of the Sun Devils. It's a toss-up league right now. It really is. We did have Iowa State and Kansas State play this past weekend, and I just want to say, I told y'all Iowa State was going to win this game. I said it. They're the underdog. The Kansas State was a better-ranked team, and I still said Iowa State is going to go over there and win. And they had some issues. They fumbled inside the 5 and still won the game. They looked really good, especially with Matt Campbell at the helm. And both those teams are going to be competing for the Big 12 championship. So I'll give my predictions in a minute, but Iowa State did look good. It's going to be a fun league. No favorites this year. No preseason polls from the media, so it's a pick 'em. And let's start with Arizona State, who was the champion last year. They defeated Iowa State. They were the faves and darlings of college football this past season. Everybody was rooting for them. They still are. Kenny Dillingham really hasn't been too high on his team, though, this offseason, which is kind of worrying me, saying that they don't really want it there. They do not look good at all, really, even though they're returning 79% of their production from last season. They lose Cam Scatterbo, who was a phenomenal running back. So much fun to watch a bowling ball in the backfield. But they do have Sam Levitt still, and I think he is one of the better quarterbacks in the country, and definitely him and Rocco Beck for Iowa State are the best quarterbacks in the Big 12. He had overall around the country third in QBR, and third with 229 passing yards per game. This Arizona State team, 35 points per game and only giving up 22 points against. So really good offensively. Decent defensively. That number definitely needs to come down in this league that is definitely offensive heavy. They do have a decent schedule, a little tough. They do go at Baylor, who should be underrated this year, at Utah, who's always tough with Kyle Whittingham, and then at Iowa State. That's probably going to decide the conference championship game. And then they play versus Texas Tech, who is supposed to be an underdog coming up this year. So pretty tough schedule for this Arizona State team. But why not? Why can't they run it back? Returning that much production, we'll see how the season goes. Tough schedule. And Kenny Dillingham being a little nervous during summer practices has me a little worried. But that's Arizona State. Texas Tech, the NIL has done wonders for this team, and they are making noise across the country. They do have an insane amount of talent, though, coming off of the transfer portal, and that's how you have to get this talent nowadays, and props to them for spending the money. They do have a new defense coordinator, Wood. He's from Houston. He took Houston from 102nd to 54th in total defense last season, so he is proven, especially last year. Baron Morton, he's a pretty mid quarterback, though, for Texas Tech that they've had the last few years, so he definitely needs to turn it on and turn on Pat Mahomes-esque if they want to win some games, because it all depends on who you have at quarterback. Lots of people's picks this year to actually make the Big 12 championship. I'm just not seeing it yet for Tech. I got to have the history there to see it. I think defense, if your defense is there for Tech, which it never has been, that'll be huge, but your quarterback play has been mid. And you do it's just no certainty. So who knows with this team? And Texas Tech, they do play at Utah, at Arizona State, at Kansas State, and versus BYU. So pretty tough schedule. And speaking of Utah, this is a team that had Cam Rising for about 15 years at quarterback. Got hurt last year. He is finally gone from this Utah team. They still have Kyle Whittingham, who is in his 22nd year as head coach. And they just fell apart last year. They started 4-0. They had 4 quarterbacks, 11 wide receivers, 8 offensive linemen, and a 7-game losing streak all of last season. So it was a season to forget. They do have a new offense coordinator in Jason Beck from New Mexico, and they brought his quarterback from there. So defense was insanely injured last year, but still, with all those turnover numbers across the roster, they were still top 13 nationally in total defense. And that's what you expect from Whittingham. Also, though, a lot of turnover on the offensive line. Only 3 of the 9 offensive linemen return. Whittingham, of course, in his 21st year, actually, for a reason. Utah going to be tough this year with all that turnover on the roster. And then K-State, Chris Kleiman, a good head coach. They return Avery Johnson, who I don't know if you saw, but his dad and his brother got into an argument, and that was insane. Over in Ireland, did not expect dad and father to be fighting like that. You have to watch the videos. Dad putting him into a puddle. You can watch that on Twitter. But Avery Johnson, in 4 games last year, he threw for 250 yards and rushed for 80 yards. So he is a dual threat quarterback. And the team averaged 37 points per game. It was a little tough game in Ireland versus Iowa State. Really rainy in the first half. Both teams, lots of miscues offensively. Couldn't handle the ball with the wet ball, but offenses looked good in the second half. So, and it's the first game of the year, so we expect a little bit of slow start. This K-State team was rolling, but they had 3 losses in November, and those 3 losses, they had 15 points per game. That's not like this Avery Johnson and Chris Kleiman offense. So expect them to get it started. 3 offense line starters gone, but they took in 4 transfers, so should be solid on the offensive line. Defense for the last 4 years, efficiency has been rated between 25th and 34th nationally. So they returned 4 of their 6 defense linemen that had 6 tackles for loss last season. They've got a good running back and wide receiver duo of transfers. And I know K-State lost the first game, but I still expect them to compete for the Big 12 title. It will just be a little harder now. But favorable schedule. They do go to Baylor, at Kansas, and at Utah. So should be a favorable schedule for them to, these other teams mix up, just continue winning and make it to the title game. Then Colorado. They lose Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Why are we talking about Colorado still? Well, they still have Deion Sanders as the head coach. Caden Salter, the new quarterback from Liberty. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but Liberty's been a pretty solid football team the last few years. And in 2024, Salter had 4,700 passing yards, along with 1,800 rushing yards. And in his career, he's had 66 total touchdowns. So this man can play. Of course, though, Deion brought in his sought-after transfers. They're going to go play for Deion in Colorado. The only problem is Deion is 4-3 in his career without his son playing quarterback. And I definitely think this Colorado team takes a hit. I would definitely stay away from Colorado this season. And finally, in the Big 12, the team that looks the best right now, obviously, because they're one of the only 2 teams that have played Big 12, Iowa State and Matt Campbell. They had 11 wins last year, and no one's really given them the time of day. But the only thing is they won 7 of their 9 wins were 1-score games. They had the most total 1-win games in the last few years out of anybody in the country. And ultimately, it will shift You don't get as lucky with those one-score wins, but I think they continue it rolling this year. They got a one-score win this past week versus K-State. And in the past 8 years, their defensive efficiency has been 23rd, or the team's overall efficiency, has been between 23rd and 37th in SP plus. So that is really good for an Iowa State team. They do replace, though, their top 3 linemen and their top 6 defensive backs, but it looked like it did not matter in week 1. Rocco Becht, a playmaker at quarterback, had a passing touchdown, had a rushing touchdown. He looked the part. And they get a good schedule. They have home versus Arizona State, home versus Kansas, and just go to TCU. So schedule favors them this season. Those are kind of the top teams in the Big 12. For my overrated this year, I'm going to go Texas Tech. Money can't always buy happiness, as they say. We'll see there. Kansas, some people are picking them to make a Big 12 title. I don't see that happening. They did look good in their week 1 win, but it was versus Fresno State. That new stadium, we'll see how that helps them. But staying away from Kansas, they've supposed to been good the last few years, and they have not been. And then I'm going to stay away from TCU as well. A lot of mixed feelings on this one, but better play it safe and fade. Underrated, I think Utah is a team that could definitely, with Kyle Whittingham, no one's picking them. You trust him. I know they have a lot of turnover, but it is Utah, and they're kind of the favorites coming into play for the Big 12, and why not roll with them? Baylor, another team. Dave Aranda, a really good head coach. I see them kind of making some noise, possibly. They do play SMU early in the year, and that could tell a lot for this Baylor team. And then, of course, K-State kind of at the top, and Arizona State are definitely going to be some good teams this season. For my conference title, though, I am taking, for the first time ever, the Iowa State Cyclones to win the Big 12 over Arizona State. So that's my Big 12 conference predictions right there. Give me ISU over Arizona State. All right, let's go into the ACC real quick. You really don't have to stray too far from the top on the ACC. It is Clemson. I'm sorry, I don't see any of them taking the top spot from Clemson this season. They're the favorite. They claim 11 of the top 27 spots on the All-ACC preseason team. Klubnik received 146 of 183 Player of the Year preseason votes. It's going to be a fun conference, though. You add Bill Belichick to North Carolina. Miami and SMU picked 2nd and 3rd in the standings. Frank Reich and Andrew Luck at Stanford. They did lose to Hawaii this past week, but, going to be a lot of fun out there in the ACC. And let's start with, it's Clemson. We see week 1. They play LSU week 1. This LSU-Clemson game is going to decide. It's not going to matter in the big picture of things as much, probably because both these teams I expect to be in the playoff. Give me a little hint right there. But I think it doesn't matter in the ACC for Clemson. This is the toughest team they'll play all year. The ACC is weak. It's been weak for years and years now. And I just don't think it matters too much for Clemson to lose this game. They're still going to run the ACC. Clemson, though, did go 0-3 versus the SEC last season. That's right. Clemson 0-3 versus SEC in 2024. They do return 80% of their production from last season after winning the ACC title last year. They return their quarterback, Clay Klubnik, who I think is going to be really, really good this year. Their top 3 receivers, who combined for 3,600 yards and 36 touchdowns. That's insane from a trio receiving core. New defense corner, Tom Allen for Clemson, pretty solid. They got 4 of their offensive line starters back, and this is Dabo Swinney's 17th year. He's been at Clemson this long for a reason. Don't like Dabo Swinney at all. I've been belong now. I've told you guys that, but he's a heck of a coach of Clemson, luckily in the ACC. We'll see how it goes this year with a young defense. They were mid to bad last year, kind of that in between. We'll see if Tom Allen can fix them up. And they go to North Carolina. They play versus SMU. They play Florida State. And they go to at South Carolina to end the year. But overall, pretty decent schedule. And I think with Cade Klubnik, he has a chance to do some special things this year for Clemson. But this week one, Clemson versus LSU, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That is going to tell us who's the big dog of the country. And then a team that most people are picking to meet Clemson in the ACC title, Miami. 10 wins last year. The only problem, there is no Cam Ward on this Miami team. They do bring in Carson Beck from Georgia, who had a decent year last year with Georgia, but I mean, it's still Carson Beck. You still wonder how much of it is a system at Georgia from what we've seen. I remember Stetson Bennett a few years ago. We saw with Gunnar Stockton in the conference title game. He came in, fit the system well. So I'm not super sold on Carson Beck just yet because it's been a system at Georgia. I need to see it at Miami. And do I trust Mario Cristobal, who was supposed to take a knee, ends up fumbling, losing in the Georgia Tech? I mean, we all remember that play. Why not just take a knee? So a little trust issues with Miami right now. And guys, they play Notre Dame week one. That is going to decide a lot. These are some great games we got going on. Week one is heck of a lineup for us. I'll be predicting this coming next week. But Carson Beck, it's his 6th year in college football, so he's got the experience. He knows how to win games. I mean, he was with Georgia. He's won national titles, won conference titles. He has also 8-3 versus the top 25 when starting. It's a pretty solid record, but of course, you have those 5-star blue chips at Georgia with you. Miami doesn't leave the state until week 6 versus Florida. That game could tell us a lot as well. Get the Miami schedule real quick. Week 6 in Florida. Then they go to at Florida State. They play at SMU November 1st. That's it. That's an easy schedule. So I see why people are picking this team to go far. I don't know yet. I need to see it from Miami. I need to see them hold their own with Notre Dame, who went to a national title last year. I think Notre Dame is going to be really good this year, especially with Marcus Freeman, Jeremiah Love for the Irish. So not a bad schedule for Miami. I just don't trust Mario Cristobal just yet. SMU, a team that was a field goal away from winning the ACC last year in their first season. They went 11-1, had a college football playoff berth, and returned most of their productions from last season. They do play Clemson on the road. That is going to be tough. That will be a tough one. October 18th. So, a few games in the season. The second game of the year, they play Baylor. 4th week, they play at TCU. They host Miami November 1st. And, of course, Clemson October 18th. So, 2 of those games that could be tough with Baylor and TCU, they are in the conference. So they don't matter. They just have to win Clemson or Miami. And they get one of those games at home. And I think they're in the driver's seat to make it to the ACC title game. So just win one of those games, you're going to win the rest of your games. The ACC is really easy. So, but SMU will see after Baylor and TCU if this team is legit. Kevin Jennings for SMU, 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns last year. They have the 32nd ranked defense all of last season for SMU. And their running back, Rashard Smith, 1,300 yards, 18 touchdowns. They got this 1-2 duo of your running back and quarterback that are really good. Your defense is solid. It's only going to get better. And I think this SMU team is primed for a run. Duke, you got Manny Diaz as your head coach. Tulane quarterback transfer who has 2,700 yards and 22 touchdowns. You know they're slinging the rock at Tulane. They've been really good offensively the last few years. And Duke, last year, 4th in the nations in sacks with 43 sacks all of last year. schedule. They do play at Tulane. That could be a little tough. Third week of the year. They host Illinois, second week of the year. If they beat Illinois, this Duke team is legit with Manny Diaz, and they go to at Clemson the 1st of November and at North Carolina second to last week of the season. So they've got a pretty decently tough schedule for Duke, and we're going to see what this team's made of. And then North Carolina, Bill Belichick at the helm. Steve Belichick coming in to be defense coordinator. They start versus TCU. That'll be a good indicator. We'll see which team is going to be overrated, underrated for the year. They host Clemson October 4th, and that's it. That's it. That's their schedule. Nothing else past that. So, cards could align for North Carolina and Bill Belichick to make a run this year in the ACC. My overrated for the season, I got to go the big one, Miami. I just don't trust Mario Cristobal, and I don't think Carson Beck is all that great. He just had a lot of talent around him in Georgia. And then overrated Duke. A lot of people are saying Duke is going to be really good this year. I don't see that really yet. Louisville is another team that could make some noise. I don't know. Maybe it's just the ACC. We'll just have to see. Can't tell too much about this conference. Underrated for the year, I think Georgia Tech is a team that can make some noise. Remember, they went to 6 overtimes versus Georgia last year, and they have their quarterback Haynes King back. They could definitely make some noise. And then North Carolina, I think Bill and Steve Belichick, they fixed that horrible defense last year that gave up 70 points. Yeah, North Carolina was giving up 50, 60, 70 points last year. Steve and Bill are going to fix that, and I think they've got a very easy schedule and can make a run for the ACC. All right, with my ACC conference title predictions, I'm taking Clemson over the Mustangs, SMU. So give me a rematch of last year. Give me Clemson over SMU in the ACC title. All right, let's move into On This Day in History, sponsored by Hefner Eye Care. Hefner Eye Care, located in Oklahoma City, or check them out on the web at hefnereyecare.com. All right, on this date, 1718, New Orleans was founded. 1682, astronomer Edmund Halley first observes the comet named after him. Halley's Comet, if you didn't get that. And then 1968, Hey Jude, the single released by the Beatles in the U.S., won Song of the Year, and it's the Billboard's 10th biggest song of all time. And then happy birthday, Tim Burton, Sean Connery, Mother Teresa, and John Mulaney. That's On This Day in History, sponsored by Hefner Eye Care. All right, let's go to the big dogs now. The Big 12 and the SEC. Starting with the Big 10, who has the defending champion Ohio State in their conference. And why is it not their league once again? They start off versus Texas, man. This week one slate is going to be phenomenal. It's the best we've ever seen. It's got a chance to be a pretty deep conference, though. I'm not going to lie. There are a lot of teams on this list that could make some noise. Still not used to some of these Pac-12 teams in this conference with Oregon, USC, UCLA, Washington. A little weird still. But let's start with Ohio State. The defending champs play Texas week 1. Then they go to Illinois October 11th. Could make some noise there. At Wisconsin could be tough. So they got Illinois, Wisconsin, and then home versus Penn State back to back to back. And then, of course, in the season versus their rival who they cannot beat, who Ryan Day cannot beat in Michigan. So could be some turmoil in Columbus. They lost to Oregon last year, and they lose their quarterback Will Howard, who I thought was going to be a system quarterback, but he looked good. He took him to a national title. Still got a lot of blue chips, 5 stars for Ohio State. So we'll see how this new quarterback comes in. But they also got 2 new coordinators, offense and defense, as Chip Kelly heads to the NFL, and they lose Jim Knowles, who was a huge piece to this Ohio State team, the best defense coordinator in the country. But they're still elite all over. And we've seen Ryan Day can coach. He just can't coach versus Michigan, but he can coach. They do only have a combined 5.5 starters returning on both sides of the ball. That's half, basically. That is half of each side. So not great, but you have the production of the backups and the stars coming in to the conference, to this team. They can reload every year. They reload every single year we see. And they got Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league, who's getting a lot of Heisman love as well. Your wide receiver core is insane with Smith, Downs, and Tate. So nothing to worry about there. We'll see how quarterback does. Week one, we're going to learn so much about just Ohio State and Texas, but especially Ohio State with a new identity, but still the defending champions. So Ohio State, though, should still be okay, in my opinion. All right, Penn State, the number 2 favorites in this conference. They're the favorites for this year as they have the only quarterback returning. Drew Aller. I was a little surprised he returned. Not really, but why not go chase a conference title, which Penn State just can't win because you have James Franklin as your head coach. There's one coach I think is the most overrated in the entire country, and you guys know it's James Franklin. I cannot stand James Franklin. I think he is the worst coach. He can't win a big game. He can't. He is 12-26 versus the top 25. He is 3-18 versus top 10. He is 1-18 versus the top 5. And he is 4-16 combined versus Michigan and Ohio State. That can't tell me that is not the most overrated coach of all time. I can't believe his job. I really can't believe it. They played in the easiest division in the Big Ten. Of course, they're going to make it to the title game, but they can't ever get over it because James Franklin has to play a team ranked. It's just ridiculous that we have to deal with this every single year. Penn State winning the Big Ten. Not going to happen. I will say this. It will never happen with James Franklin as the head coach. I don't care. Cole, take me on that. It's not going to happen. Can they make the Big 12 title game? Yes. Will they win it? No. So, Drew Aller will be a big help for them this year. And guys, they did bring in Jim Knowles. This Penn State team did bring in Jim Knowles. That is huge for their defense coordinator. This is a defense in Penn State that has been really, really good for a very, very, very long time. And you bring in Jim Knowles. Huge. Drew Aller, 3,300 yards, 24 touchdowns last year. And their defense, 7th or better in defense the last 4 years. And guys, that was without Jim Knowles. It's going to be a scary defense for anybody playing Penn State. And let's see at their schedule. Oh, look, Nevada, FIU, and Villanova to start the season. Really? They do host Oregon for the first conference game. They play at Ohio State, and they play versus Indiana, who is overrated. Of course they're going to make a Big Ten title game. Look at their schedule. It's like this every single year. Cupcake, cupcake, cupcake. It's ridiculous. Of course, they'll lose to Ohio State by 50 and make the Big Ten title game. It's whatever. Yeah, easy schedule. All right. Sorry, that's my soapbox. Michigan, Sherrone Moore, second year, 9-5 last year, with a 2-game suspension. Sorry, 8-5 last year, or 8-4. Sorry, I don't know what I had, but 2-game suspension. This coming season, they do play Oklahoma week 2. He's not taking his 2-game suspension during that. He'll do it the week 4 and week after. Michigan offense scored 24 points in 6 of 13 games. That's not going to beat most teams. That's not going to beat this new Oklahoma team this year. And they do play at USC and versus Ohio State. That's the Michigan schedule. That's very easy. The only thing is they start a 5-star quarterback, but he's a freshman in Bryce Underwood. So we'll see how that goes. He is the starter. Of course, he was the number 1 player in the country. That doesn't always work out, as we've seen. But if he's any like a quarter or half of what his expectations are, this Michigan team will actually make a run. I really do think so. They beat Ohio State and Alabama last year. Yeah, they beat Ohio State and Alabama. So, um, this has a lot of upside for Michigan. A lot of transfers, though. It's still Michigan, and you got the easy schedule. So I think Michigan with Sharon Moore, who showed he can coach. He can coach, taking over for Jim Harbaugh. This is a team to watch out for. We are going to learn a lot about that Michigan-Oklahoma game. Week 2 or game day is more likely going to be. Team that no one's talking about this year, but still really solid, Oregon. 13-1 last year. They beat Ohio State, and they beat Penn State. Of course, they did have Dylan Gabriel. They do lose him. They lost a ton of productions from this last season team. And Dan Lanning, 35-6 in his career. This is already his 4th year. That's pretty insane to think about how it's gone, how fast it's gone up there. Of the 19 defenders, though, who played 100 snaps, he only returns 5. That's going to be a huge loss in this. We'll see. This Big Ten doesn't play much offense, so we'll see how big of a loss that is. He did cook in the portal, though. Oregon did do really good in the portal with that Nike Phil Knight money. Beckfield and the quarterback should be a safe floor for Oregon. And they only play Penn State week 5 and Indiana for a top 25 matchup, and we'll see if Indiana's even ranked by then. But that's your Oregon team. Should be pretty good. Indiana, 11-2 last year, 8-1 in conference. Can you tell me they aren't overrated? They are. Cupcake, cupcake, cupcake. Oh, let's see who they play, guys. Old Dominion, nice. Kennesaw State, nice. Indiana State, nice. That's your conference schedule, non-conference schedule. That's ridiculous. This Indiana team, I don't even know why I'm talking about this team. They're going to be overrated again. Start out 3-0, and then they play Illinois. Probably lose to Illinois. At Oregon, and then at Penn State late in November. So we'll see what this Indiana team does. I think they're highly overrated once again. Should have a few more losses than last year, though. They do have 8 starters return, but they do have a new quarterback in Cal's quarterback, Mendoza, who did, in 20 games, throw for 4,700 yards and 30 touchdowns. So not bad stats, especially at Cal. Trips to Oregon, Penn State, and Iowa. Maybe a little tough, but we'll see. I think they're not going to be as dominant or as highly loved as they were last year. Illinois, Brett Bielema, who's won 10 games for the first, took Illinois to winning 10 games for the first time in 23 years last season. They lead the conference in returning starters. The only problem is all these games were super close. They had a walk-off touchdown last year. They won 2 overtime games. The walk-off touchdown versus Rutgers, late stops versus K-State and South Carolina. That's 5 wins right there that could have swung the opposite way. So was it a luck to get to 10 wins? I think so, but they do have a lot of this production coming back. They were 55th in offense last year. Should be better offensively this season. They do play at Duke and at Indiana in the first 4 weeks. Play USC as well. Versus Ohio State November 11th. So tough schedule to start, but manageable in between that. So Illinois could be a team that you could underrate, but I don't see them making a Big 12 or a Big 10 title run. And I just want to harp on USC for a minute. 7-6 last year, 4-6 in conference. Riley on the hot seat. He should be, but you're paying him way too much money. The only time he's winning is with a really good quarterback. The quarterback does him a lot. He is apparently the quarterback whisperer, but we'll see. Jaden Myova, who started 4 games last year, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns. So not too bad, but we'll see with the full season. This USC team is 15-13 in their last 28 games. That's with Lincoln Riley. And that was with Caleb Williams as well, where they underperformed. So expect mediocrity. Maybe at least they're good offensively, but don't see them making a run in the Big Ten. All right, my overrated for the season, USC. Stay away from them. Indiana, records still might be better than what they actually are like last year. And then Illinois, I mean, from the media, they're saying this is going to be a college football playoff team. I don't know. I need to see them win games that aren't in the final play. I know you got the stops, but still, tide turns at some point, and it's Brett Belima. So can only trust that so far. For my underrated, Illinois. Why not? They can be both. Luke Altmaier, pretty good quarterback. Their offensive line returns, and they have a pretty easy schedule with USC and Indiana. So Illinois overrated and underrated in my book. And then underrated, Michigan. Come on, guys. Bryce Underwood, 5-star. Sherman Moore, who proved he can coach. Michigan with a very easy schedule besides Oklahoma and Ohio State to begin and end the year. This Michigan team can make a run for the Big Ten title game. And then Nebraska. Matt Rule started 5-1 last year, guys. Matt Rule is turning it around. He's got 2 new coordinators and some good transfers in offensive and defensive. Watch out for Nebraska to make some noise. My conference title game, I really want to pick Michigan to make this, but I don't. Right now, I'm going with the Ohio State over. Yeah, sure, why not? Penn State. Yeah, I'll let them go to the Big Ten title game. It's not going to happen, though. They're not going to win it, though. But I think you can interchange Penn State for Michigan in this scenario. So that is my Big Ten predictions. Let's go to the big daddy of them all, the SEC. Man, only the Big 12 has better returning production than the SEC, and that is because of the quarterbacks. It is a who knows what's going to happen in the SEC with all these brand new quarterbacks. Insane the turnover we get here. But yeah, Garrett Nussmeier, Leonard Sellers for South Carolina. So it's going to be fun watching these guys. I mean, Arch Manning, John Mateer, it's DJ Lagway. So some notable names, but still, who knows what's going to happen? Ty Simpson at Alabama. So 9 teams are ranked in the top 24. Best conference in football. Everyone's saying Texas is the clear favorite. I think this conference is wide open. There's so much uncertainty. Quarterbacks, the schedule is brutal for literally everyone. Besides kind of Texas, they got a fairly easy shake for this year once again. So we'll see what happens there. But otherwise, this conference is going to be really good to watch, and I wouldn't be doubtful if the SEC champion has 3 losses this season. So start with Alabama. Chugging along with DeBoer and Milroe, who is gone for Alabama, but they had 39 points per game last year, and then they lost to Vandy, and everything just fell apart. With only scoring 15 points per game the last 3 games, and now that Milroe's gone, that was a big key to their success offensively. And I know people hit on Milroe, but he was still a pretty solid quarterback. Took him to the college football playoff last year. Ty Simpson was the number 2 quarterback in 2022, but how good was he if he's sitting behind Milroe all this time? But he's been sitting, waiting his turn, learning from Alabama, learning from Milroe. And you do have a new offense coordinator in Ryan Grubb, who, in 2023, was with Washington, with Michael Penix, and this team that made it to the national title game. And he spent last year in the NFL. That's huge for this Alabama team. They got a lot of turnover, of course, at Alabama. You're going to have guys leaving and entering, guys leaving to go play somewhere else who can actually play, where they can actually play, and then all these blue chips coming in. Ryan Williams, superstar wide receiver for this Bama team, 17-years old last year, should have been in high school. He's going to make some noise once again. Defense last year was 5th overall in points allowed per drive. That is solid for a team that could only score 15 points the last 3 games as well, and that was putting up 39 points per game, which was keeping the defense on the field and not letting them get any breaks. So good there. 13 of 19 players who saw over 200 snaps return for this Bama team, and I think Kellen DeBoer is a good coach. And of course, OC and Kellen DeBoer were together in Washington. So I think this Alabama team is poised for a run once again, see how Ty Simpson does, but of course they've got great quarterbacks lined up right behind him. They got uh, their pick of who they want. All right, Georgia won the SEC in 2024 with a backup with Gunnar Stockton as Carson Beck went out in the first half, or right at the end of the first half. But Kirby Smart, I mean, he's still at the helm. He can't control his players driving, but he can control them winning football games for this Georgia team. Um, their 10th ranked offense last year was actually their worst since 2020. Uh, their defense was ninth overall across the country. That was their worst since 2018. So a lot of bads last year, and they're still top 10 in offense and defense. And we're like, this team sucks. So and they also beat Texas twice, once in Austin and one in the SEC title game with the backup. You got a lot of great transfers in. They're going to want to play for Kirby and the team that's going to make the college football playoff. Weak wide receiver core will continue. We'll see how much Gunnar Stockton. That's going to hurt him a lot because, of course, he's such a young new quarterback and just no one to throw to. And 7 of the 10 linebackers and defense linemen who saw 300 snaps are gone. So they are replacing a lot for Georgia. But I mean, you trust in your coordinators and your head coach for Georgia and who these guys are bringing in. Number 1 recruiting class every single year, top 5, top 3, and expect them to be good, especially with the transfer portal and the guys they can pay to play. All right, Texas. Has Sark found his groove? Finally playing some good football. Finally found his head coaching groove. It is Arch time now. He's set for the last 2 years. He could have gone somewhere else, but he is set. How good is he? I mean, he's looked good. He's looked bad. He can run. He can pass. Call me Dr. Seuss. But only how much can he do as only one offensive lineman returns from last year? One. We saw how much that hurt Oklahoma last season with no offensive line. And that is going to hurt Texas quite a bit, especially in the SEC where you are facing 300-pound linemen on 1, 2, 3, 4, each side, everywhere on that defensive line. That is going to hurt a lot, and especially with a quarterback who has not played college football, played in 2 games. Did show signs of really goodness, Eli and Peyton. So, secondary was great for Texas last year, but they lose 5 of their 6 defense linemen. Guys, they're replacing a lot. That is not easy to do in this conference. But, like I said with the other teams, they get their guys. They use the transfer portal. They have unlimited money out in Texas. So, they should be pretty good with getting transfers in, and their recruiting class has been top 5 for a while now. They did get lucky with no injuries last year, and no holes in their offense or defense, really. They've all been seniors. Like I said, these guys are leaving now. But it kind of shifts. You have years where you get unlucky, and this could be a year. And can Stark continue to be good? I finally found out how to coach. I don't know. I think this Texas team, there's a lot of uncertainty just to say they're going to win this conference, especially with they do start Ohio State. That's going to be super, super tough. They go to at Florida and then versus Oklahoma back-to-back, and they head to Georgia and then in the season versus A&M. So, of the SEC teams, this is a pretty favorable schedule, but still very, very hard. And then LSU, this is Brian Kelly's 4th year already at LSU, and he has 3 top 10 offenses, a Heisman Trophy winner in Jane Daniels. He's beaten 3 top 10 teams, and he's been in the top 10 each season he's been there. So where are the accolades? Where are the SEC title games? Where are the college football playoff wins? You got to start the season better than what he has been. He started 0-3 since he's been at LSU in season openers. He's lost to 3 unranked teams as well, and he's lost 4 games by 20-plus points. So that's kind of what you get with Brian Kelly. You get a lot of good, and you get quite a bit of bad. But what's good is you got Garrett Nussmeier, who I think is the best quarterback in the conference. One of the best quarterbacks. Him and Klubnik are my top 2 quarterbacks in the country. He had 4,000 yards and 29 touchdowns last season. This guy is a baller. Expect him. You're only as good as your quarterback is, and this guy is really, really good. Their offense line, this is not good. They replaced 4 starters. It's hard to replace offensive line. It is easier in the transfer portal. It's still very, very hard overall. They do play at versus Clemson, versus Florida, third week of the year, at Ole Miss, at South Carolina back-to-back, versus Texas A&M, at Alabama back-to-back, and they end the season at Oklahoma. That is 7 ranked teams. That is a gauntlet of a schedule for LSU, especially with Brian Kelly. That's tough. That's gonna be tough to do. Their defense, 34th last year, in defense coordinator Baker's first year. They did get some good transfers coming in. I expect that defense to get even better for LSU, but it's a gauntlet. We'll see. Garrett Musmeyer, though, is going to have to make some winning plays, and I think he is capable of that. All right. A&M, Mike Elko, his second year. Marcel Reed, quarterback there, he was the 6th best total QB in the country last year with QBR, and he's the best freshman in the SEC last season. This A&M team also had the 3rd lowest sack rate in the country. They did lose, though, their top 5 pass catchers. That is tough. Who is this guy going to throw to? It is hard to replace receivers learning new routes and just getting the chemistry done with that. They do have a dynamic running back duo returning, and they return 6 offensive linemen with 5 seniors. That's how you win games: offense, defense, linemen in the SEC. So there's a lot to like about that. What's not a lot to like about is the last 5 games of the season, the defense gave up 44 points, 3 points, 43 points, 17 points, and 35 points. But they stopped 39% of snaps at or behind the line of scrimmage. That is 8th in the nation, but still gave up this many points. So got to make a lot of changes defensively. They did get a lot of transfers in through the transfer portal. So that's really the big thing. I think offensively should be pretty good again. Defense, it can't really get worse, can it? And Mike Elko is a decent head coach. So A&M could make some noise, underrated this year, but of course they're A&M and will obviously implode and not live up to the hype. All right, Oklahoma. This is Brent Venables' make or break year. This is it. It's his 4th year already. Have a favorable schedule to start. You get Michigan at home second week. You get Auburn at home, at Texas, at South Carolina. You go starting October 11th. You go versus Texas neutral site, at South Carolina, versus Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Alabama, home versus Missouri, home versus LSU. That is 7 of 8 ranked opponents back to back. That is absolute gauntlet right there. That is insane. But there's no reason this Oklahoma team, I don't think, should start out 5-0 heading into Texas. And if it's not, Brent Venables might be gone before Texas. But that is a tough schedule back half of the year to end it. I mean, you got to stay healthy this year. That's what this Oklahoma team did not do last year. Offensive line was horrible. Receivers kept getting injured. Defense, not great. Brent Venables retook the defensive coordinator job. But the last time this Oklahoma team was this bad, they won the national championship game the following year. The defense was good last year. The offense was horrible. Worst offensive season in forever. I mean, since the 90s for this Oklahoma team. But they did bring in a great duo of John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle from Washington State, who Arbuckle coached Cam Ward the season before he went to Miami. So a lot of trust in Ben Arbuckle and Mateer and what they did last season being at Washington State. This defense, that's the only reason they were in games last year, is the only reason. And they were in a lot of one-score games last year. So tide could have switched a little bit, Missouri game, they choked that one defensively. But when you don't have a quarterback fumbling the ball 6 times per game, and you have a revamped offensive line, you have to have offensive line in the SEC. You really do. D-line going to be one of the best in the country. Lots of returning production. David Stone, of course, the 5-star. You have to start 5-1 as you play 9 top 25 teams. You have to start out at least 5-1, 5-0, going past Texas. Mateer, 3,100 passing yards, 1,000 rushing yards. This guy, dual threat, and there is a lot to like about him. Baker Mayfield-esque. And they also add Jaden Ott, the running back out of California. That is a big get. Oklahoma backfield might be one of the best in the country with 4 really good running backs who can all make plays and have some time getting some calls. Brent with defense got a lot of trust in that because, it's his make or break year. He is going to be pulling out all the stops. Do lose Danny Stutzman, which is huge, but still like Oklahoma to, start out 5-0. Anything's possible for this team. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, his 5th year already. 2 top 10 finishes. Made the college football playoff last year, but you do lose Nico Iamaleava. That's big. I get not wanting to pay him. I understand that. But now you're left with nobody at quarterback. Your offense, you have 3 starters return. 3. That's not going to win you games. I don't care how much the transfer portal works in your favor. You did have the best defense last year since 1999. And I do like Josh Heupel as a head coach, but you lose Nico, who's already been there a few years, and bring in a lot more new talent. I think it's going to be a little tough. I think the morale's down in Knoxville. And their schedule-wise, they play Georgia the 3rd week, at Alabama, at Kentucky, and versus Oklahoma back-to-back-to-back, and then second to last week at Florida. So not terrible schedule, but still pretty hard for Tennessee with no quarterback. South Carolina, Lenore Sellers voted the best returning quarterback in the SEC. I still think Garrett Nussmeier is. I need to see more from Lenore Sellers, but of course he's good. He's huge. Big running back type of guy. The only problem is Shane Beamer, decent head coach, but he's lost 9 games by 21-plus points. They started 3-3 last year, but then they won 6 straight. And this season, they play 7 top 21 teams. So that's going to be very, very tough for the Shane Beamer team, who is the most maybe inconsistent coach out there. So we'll see how USC does. But if they didn't have Lenore Sellers, wouldn't be winning any games. So see how he plays. And then Florida, another coach trying to save their job, Billy Napier, entering his 4th year. He is 19-19. Saved his job last year. This team is 134th in lineup stability. There's 134 teams, guys. DJ Lagway, freshman last year, he has 1 interception every 21 attempts. Needs to get rid of that, or at least up that number with the attempts-wise before throwing a interception. They played 7 of the top 15 teams in the country this year. That's ridiculous. That is a gauntlet. Defense was very bend, don't break last year. And 29 of the 49 players that started, though, last year make a return for this season. So they are definitely going to need those players to step up big time. But Florida, I think it's going to be very tough. 7 top 15 teams. It's tough. My overrated for the season, got to go Florida. Just how are they going to turn it around now with Billy Napier? I don't see it, especially with playing that deep of a schedule. And then Tennessee, they have no returning production. You lose Nico, and I just think Tennessee takes a step back. South Carolina, Sellers, too many sacks, 42nd QBR. I think there's a lot of hype on them. They can still be a good team, but I think overrated in how the media is portraying them. And then Missouri. This is a team I would stay away from. Last year, the pendulum is going to swing because last year they were 10-1 in 1-score games. So staying away from them. Underrated teams for the season. LSU. This team could make the conference title game, or be a top 4 team in the college football playoff. Nussmeier is really, really good at what he does. You just have to watch Brian Kelly, man. I think Nussmeier can right some of those wrongdoings by Kelly's coaching. Oklahoma, the defense is just so good. I mean, the best defense line in the conference, top defenses in the country last year. It's only getting better with production and offense with Mateer, who balled out at Washington State. And then Texas A&M, Mike Elko is a good coach. Marcel Reed can get a little bit better, but I think he can definitely lead this team to some unexpected wins. So, my overrated, underrated. And for my title game, my SEC title game, I'm taking the Alabama Crimson Tide over the LSU Tigers. That's right. Give me Bama over LSU. That'd be a really fun SEC title game. So that's who I'm taking. Let's go into my Heisman winners. Or actually, let me tell you my conference picks for each conference. And in the AAC, American Athletic Conference, I'm taking Tulane over Memphis. The Big 12, I'm taking Iowa State over Arizona State. And the ACC, I'm taking Clemson over SMU. In the Big 10, I'm taking Ohio State over Penn State. And then the SEC, I'm taking Alabama over LSU. So that's my conference title predictions. And my Heisman voting. This one's gonna go back and forth. Whoever wins this week 1 game, I think whoever wins that wins the Heisman. I do. And of course LSU, you got to win a few of those games down the stretch because you play a tough schedule. The only reason both of these quarterbacks I think deserve the Heisman after this year, but we're only gonna have to have one unless they just change it up. But I'm taking Cade Klubnik to win the Heisman Trophy for 2025-2026. Second place, I got Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU. Third, I'm going to take Ohio State's wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. And then in fourth in the Heisman voting, quarterback from Texas, Arch Manning. So those are my top 4 picks. My underdogs that could make a run for the Heisman Trophy, quarterback out of Oklahoma, John Mateer. Alabama wide receiver Ryan Williams, and running back out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Love. So those are my Heisman predictions for the 2025-2026 season. And then in my college football playoff, my number 1 overall seed, Ohio State. Number 2, I've got Clemson. I just think their schedule is very easy, and I don't expect them to lose any games. Maybe just week 1 versus LSU. Number 3, I've got, of course, the SEC champion will be up there in Alabama. Number 4, Notre Dame, who should favorable schedule, should be a really good team. Made a national title last year. I think they're running it back, especially with Marcus Freeman, a good head coach. Number 5, I've got Penn State, just because I think they have fewer losses with that easy schedule. Number 6, the SEC runner-up, LSU. Number 7, the Big 12 champion, Iowa State. Number 8, I've got Texas. Number 9, Oregon. Number 10, Georgia. Number 11, Big 12 runner-up, Arizona State. And number 12, Boise State. So those are my 1 through 12. And you notice only one ACC team in. I think if it's SMU, I think they could lose one game to Baylor TCU and give them extra loss and keep them out of the playoffs. So earlier in the year. But those are my 1 through 12 college football playoff. Let me know your picks on that. All right, let's move into the final segment, who I'm sharing my burger and brat with. Share my burger and brat with an animal that would love a burger and brat. A bison calf is the first born in Minnesota on the largest Native American reservation. The Winter Earth Nation, or the White Earth Nation, was overjoyed and surprised as a bison calf was born out of season. It's the first buffalo born here since they started breeding the program 2 years ago. And usually bison are born in spring, and it usually happens when the mom's older. But this mom was very young, so it happened in the summer, and a very young mother. The bison herd on the reservation is at about 10, but it hopes to grow to 44 by next year. So that would be remarkable. And this is a new chapter in reconnecting with sacred relatives of the natives. And just congratulations to White Earth Nation for your new bison calf up in Minnesota. So share my burger and brat with the Bisons. All right, everyone, that's my full college football playoff predictions. Going to be a fun season. Super excited. Let me know your picks for each conference, your Heisman winners, and your 12-team playoff. All right, everyone, thank you all for listening. Make sure to follow the podcast on any platform, any streaming service, literally anywhere. Get your podcast at Burgers and Brats, and stay up to date with latest news on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Burgers and Brats. Hopefully, just watch live on millions.co. Thank you all for listening. Take care. Stay safe.